Welcome back to Fuel for the Drive, your go-to channel for deep dive anime and Marvel breakdowns, theories, and storytelling analysis. Today, we're going all in on Marvel's What If? Season 1. From Peggy Carter's first steps as a super soldier to the Watcher breaking his oath, we'll cover every episode in detail, explore hidden themes, and break down the finale that sets the stage for the Multiverse saga. If you're new here, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our future breakdowns. The episode begins with the Watcher, introducing the premise. One small choice can split history, creating an alternate reality. The branching point here is Project Rebirth, the experiment that created Captain America. In the original MCU timeline, Steve Rogers receives the super soldier serum and becomes Captain America, the symbolic hero of World War II. But here, things play out differently because of a single decision. Peggy Carter chooses to stay in the room during the experiment. During the serum injection, a Hydra saboteur attacks. In the scuffle, Steve is shot and unable to proceed with the experiment. With no time to lose, Peggy Carter steps forward, refusing to let the project fail. She enters the chamber, receives the serum, and emerges transformed, taller, stronger, and more powerful. This instantly changes history. Instead of Captain America, the world now has Captain Carter. But unlike Steve, Peggy faces immediate prejudice. Colonel John Flynn dismisses her heroism, mocking her for being a woman. Despite her strength, she's sidelined to paperwork and treated as a failed experiment. Peggy refuses to stay in the shadows. With Howard Stark's support, she takes on missions herself, showing she's more than capable. Stark designs her a vibranium shield, and she dons a new uniform with a Union Jack, symbolizing both Britain and the Allied cause. Meanwhile, Steve, still frail from his wounds, isn't abandoned. Howard Stark builds him the Hydra Stomper, a proto-Iron Man-style armored suit powered by the Tesseract. This flips the roles. Steve is now the one inside the armor, fighting alongside Peggy. Together, they form an unstoppable duo. The chemistry between them mirrors their original romance, but here, Peggy is the super soldier and Steve is the vulnerable partner, an inversion that reinforces the idea that heroism isn't about size or gender, but courage. In a parallel to Captain America, the First Avenger, Peggy and the Howling Commandos attack a Hydra train. But instead of Bucky falling to his death, this time Steve, inside the Hydra Stomper, goes down when the train explodes. This is one of the most emotional moments of the episode, as Peggy believes she has lost Steve, just as Steve once lost Bucky in the main timeline. The climax reveals Hydra's true plan. Red Skull uses the Tesseract not to create weapons, but to summon a massive interdimensional creature, hinted to be a Shumagorath-like being. Captain Carter battles the beast, wielding her shield and sheer determination. With no other choice, she sacrifices herself, pushing the monster back through the portal. She disappears into the unknown. Just as Steve once sacrificed himself into the ice, Peggy sacrifices herself into another dimension. She awakens 70 years later, stepping through the portal to meet Nick Fury and Hawkeye. For Peggy, it has only been moments. But the world has changed. Her war is over. Her time is gone. Peggy simply staying in the room changes everything. The show highlights how fragile history is in the MCU. The episode critiques 1940s sexism while showing that Peggy is just as worthy as Steve. Heroism is defined by courage and sacrifice, not physical form. Steve and Peggy's relationship survives the role reversal. Their bond isn't about who is the hero and who is the support, but about shared values. Just as Steve was lost to Peggy in ice, here Steve is lost in battle. In every universe, their story is marked by sacrifice and separation. As the first episode, it's a statement. This isn't about replacing characters, but showing how the multiverse expands possibilities. What if Captain Carter were the First Avenger? Reimagines a cornerstone of the MCU with fresh perspective. Peggy Carter emerges as a symbol of strength, resilience, and sacrifice. It's not simply about, what if a woman got the serum instead? It's about exploring how one decision redefines destiny. Peggy's story doesn't erase Steve's, it complements it, proving that in any universe, true heroes rise to the challenge. The Watcher once again reminds us, one small choice can alter destiny. This time, the branching point is 1988. In the MCU we know, Yondu's Ravagers were hired by Ego to abduct his son, Peter Quill. But due to a careless mistake by Kraglin and Taserface, the Ravagers kidnap young T'Challa of Wakanda instead. That single error leads to a completely different galaxy, one shaped not by Peter Quill's immaturity, but by T'Challa's nobility. 20 years later, T'Challa has become the legendary outlaw hero Star-Lord. The tone is immediately different compared to Guardians of the Galaxy. Where Peter Quill was mocked and dismissed, T'Challa is admired and respected. Karath, who once ridiculed Quill in the MCU, now idolizes T'Challa as a galactic celebrity, begging to join him. This sets the stage. T'Challa's charisma and moral compass have reshaped not just the Ravagers, but the wider galaxy. Under T'Challa's influence, Yondu's Ravagers are no longer selfish mercenaries. They are closer to Robin Hood figures, stealing from the rich, redistributing to the poor, and preventing wars. T'Challa's leadership transforms them into a force of good, contrasting with Peter Quill's version, where the Ravagers remained morally gray. This change reinforces the episode's theme. Who leads makes all the difference. The episode centers on a daring heist. The target? The Embers of Genesis, a cosmic substance that can terraform barren worlds and end famine across entire galaxies. T'Challa, Nebula, here reimagined as blonde and independent, freed from Thanos' shadow, and the Ravagers infiltrate the Collector's fortress on Nowhere to retrieve it. This isn't just a heist for profit, it's a mission to literally save civilizations. One of the biggest twists comes early. Thanos himself is a Ravager. In this timeline, T'Challa convinced Thanos that his genocidal plan of balancing the universe was unnecessary. Through reason, persuasion, and diplomacy, T'Challa changed the course of the most feared villain in the MCU. Now, Thanos fights alongside the Ravagers, joking about his old plan, still insisting it was efficient, but acknowledging it was wrong. This shocking twist illustrates the depth of T'Challa's influence. Where violence once spread, compassion and wisdom now lead to peace. Without Thanos as the ultimate threat, the power vacuum is filled by the Collector. Here, he has grown into a tyrant, hoarding powerful weapons and artifacts across the galaxy. We see him wield Mjolnir, Hela's Necrosword, and Captain America's shield, each trophy symbolizing conquered heroes. This version of the Collector is far more dangerous and intimidating than his MCU counterpart, representing how evil adapts when power dynamics shift. The Ravagers infiltrate Nowhere, but the Collector anticipates their move. Karina, his enslaved assistant, becomes key in turning the tide. A battle erupts. T'Challa duels the Collector, using both his combat skills and cunning. Meanwhile, the Ravagers fend off the Black Order, who now serve the Collector instead of Thanos. In a deeply emotional moment, T'Challa discovers a Wakandan spacecraft in the Collector's vault. Inside, a holographic message from his father reveals Wakanda never stopped searching for him. This revelation devastates T'Challa. Yondu had lied, telling him Wakanda was destroyed. His anger is justified, but Yondu explains he only feared losing the boy he had grown to love as a son. This mirrors Peter Quill's strained but familial bond with Yondu, but here the roles are more honest. T'Challa truly changed Yondu, making him a better man. With Karina's help, the Collector is defeated, his slaves freed, and the Embers of Genesis secured. T'Challa forgives Yondu, acknowledging both his lies and his love. Together with the Ravagers, he returns to Wakanda, where an emotional reunion with his family occurs. For the first time, the cosmic Star-Lord and the earthly prince merge into one identity. The episode ends with a quiet but ominous stinger. On Earth, Ego finally tracks down Peter Quill, who now works at a Dairy Queen. Without T'Challa to guide the galaxy, Ego's plan to use his son for galactic conquest remains alive. The Watcher hints, this may spell the end of the world, but that's a story for another time. Where Quill stumbled, T'Challa inspired. His moral clarity reshaped even the most dangerous figures in the universe. Unlike Quill, who was shaped by Ravager greed, T'Challa's Wakandan roots and values shaped the Ravagers instead. Without Thanos, someone else rose to power. Evil doesn't vanish, it evolves. Both Yondu and T'Challa confront lies, but their father-son bond prevails. Unlike Quill's rocky path, this relationship finds resolution. This was one of Boseman's final performances, making the episode not only inspiring but bittersweet. It immortalizes his legacy as a leader, both in Wakanda and in the cosmos. What if T'Challa became a Star-Lord? Is one of the most uplifting entries in the series. It shows how a single person's morality can ripple outward, reshaping galaxies. More than just a role swap, it's a story about the enduring power of character, that even among thieves, tyrants, and gods, T'Challa's compassion changes everything. The Watcher sets the stage again. Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. It's a prism of endless possibility. This episode asks, what if, during the early days of the Avengers Initiative, Earth's mightiest heroes were eliminated before they could even assemble? The branching point lies in the week-long timeline of Fury's Big Week, the crucial chain of events in MCU Phase 1 where Nick Fury began recruiting heroes for the Avengers Initiative. Instead of gaining allies, Fury faces a nightmare. One by one, the future Avengers are being systematically killed. We open with the events of Iron Man 2, where Tony Stark sits inside the donut shop. Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff approach him, intending to inject him with lithium dioxide to slow his palladium poisoning. But when Natasha injects him, Tony suddenly collapses. He convulses, gasps, and dies instantly. The world has just lost Iron Man before he ever joined the team. Natasha is accused of murder and taken into custody, but Fury, trusting her, secretly lets her investigate. Already, the Avengers Initiative is unraveling. We then move to Thor. Thor has just been banished to Earth, stripped of his powers, and attempts to reclaim Mjolnir in the New Mexico desert. As S.H.I.E.L.D. guards the site, Clint Barton, Hawkeye, watches Thor try to lift the hammer. In the original timeline, Thor fails but survives. Here, just as Thor reaches for Mjolnir, Clint fires an arrow, straight through Thor's chest. Thor dies instantly. Clint swears he never released the arrow. It just went off. Later, before he can explain further, Clint mysteriously dies in his cell. Another Avenger candidate gone. Now Asgard becomes involved. Odin sends Lady Sif and the Warriors 3 to Earth, demanding answers. Loki arrives with the Asgardian army, threatening war if Thor's death isn't avenged. The story then shifts to the Incredible Hulk. Bruce Banner is hiding with Betty Ross. Natasha tracks him down to warn him of the murders. But before Banner can escape, General Ross's forces surround him. The chase leads to the university courtyard, echoing the 2008 film. Bruce transforms into the Hulk, unleashing his rage. But suddenly, his body begins to swell grotesquely from the inside, until he literally explodes in a burst of green flesh. Even the Hulk, the indestructible force of the Avengers, is gone. Natasha digs deeper, uncovering that the deaths are linked by something or someone moving unseen. She manages to access Coulson's files on the Avengers candidates. Before she can finish, she is attacked in the shadows. Natasha fights desperately, recording a final message on her phone before she too is killed. Now the Avengers Initiative is completely destroyed. Meanwhile, Loki, furious over Thor's murder, offers a temporary alliance with Fury. He will help bring the killer to justice, but threatens to conquer Earth if the murderer is not found. The clock is ticking. Using Natasha's final message, Fury uncovers the shocking truth. The killer is Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man, but not the noble scientist we once knew. Here, Hank is broken and embittered. The tragedy begins with his daughter, Hope Van Dyne, who in this timeline became an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. She died on a mission, and Fury's organization covered it up. Consumed by grief and rage, Hank blames Nick Fury and the Avengers Initiative. Using his Pym particles, he assassinated the candidates, slipping into Tony's bloodstream, forcing Clint's arrow release, sabotaging Bruce's transformation, and ambushing Natasha. It was all a personal vendetta disguised as coincidence. Fury confronts Hank in the desert. But just as Hank attacks with his shrinking abilities, Fury begins dodging with superhuman speed. He's far too agile. The truth clicks. This isn't Fury, it's Loki in disguise. Together, Fury and Loki defeat Hank Pym. The murders are avenged, but the cost is catastrophic. The Avengers are gone before they were ever formed. In the aftermath, Loki betrays his word. With Earth's mightiest heroes gone, he easily seizes control, standing at the United Nations and declaring himself ruler of the planet. Nick Fury refuses to give up. He and Coulson recover Captain America's frozen body. As the shield thaws, Fury remarks, "Welcome back, Cap. We're going to need you." At the same time, he summons Captain Marvel, who answers his pager. The Avengers' initiative may have failed, but a new hope rises. A single person's vendetta destroys the world's greatest defense before it begins. This shows just how precarious the Avengers' initiative truly was. Hank Pym embodies how tragedy can twist even heroes into monsters. Hope's death is a small change with catastrophic ripples. Without them, Earth becomes vulnerable, not just to Loki, but to every cosmic threat. Unlike other episodes, the Watcher remains purely observant, emphasizing the inevitability of this dark outcome. In the MCU we know, Hank Pym warned about SHIELD's corruption, but never broke. Here, his loss drives him into madness. The line between hero and villain is razor thin. What if the world lost its mightiest heroes? Is one of the darkest entries in the series. It strips away the idea of inevitability, reminding us the Avengers were not destined to succeed. They were lucky. Without them, Earth falls almost instantly. But Fury's defiance ensures hope remains. Even in the darkest timeline, heroes will rise. The Watcher begins. Time is not a straight line. It's a prism of endless possibility. The point of divergence here is subtle, yet devastating. In the MCU, Stephen Strange's career as a surgeon ends when his hands are destroyed in a car crash. But in this universe, he never loses his hands. Instead, he loses something far more personal: Christine Palmer, the woman he loves. Her death becomes the turning point that changes Strange's destiny, not toward heroism, but toward obsession and ruin. We see Stephen and Christine driving together to an award ceremony. But fate intervenes. In the MCU, Strange drives alone and crashes, injuring his hands. Here, Christine is with him, and the crash kills her instantly. This loss devastates Strange. The arrogance of the surgeon who once sought glory is replaced by the grief of a man who cannot accept fate. It is not his hands that are broken. It is his heart. Strange still seeks out Kamartaj, still trains under the Ancient One, and still rises to become the Sorcerer Supreme. But his motivation is not enlightenment or duty. It is obsession. Every spell he learns, every power he masters, is bent toward one impossible goal: bringing Christine back. On the anniversary of Christine's death, Strange attempts to change the past using the Time Stone. He travels back to that night repeatedly, trying to prevent the accident. But no matter what he does, choosing different routes, not driving at all, even avoiding the car, Christine always dies. Sometimes it's a crash. Sometimes it's a gunman. Sometimes it's a heart attack. The universe itself refuses to let her live. The Ancient One appears and explains the truth. Christine's death is an absolute point in time, a fixed event that cannot be undone. Without it, Strange would never become who he is. To erase it would unravel reality itself. But Strange cannot accept this. His grief overpowers reason. Strange discovers an alternative way, absorbing the power of mystical beings. He ventures into the depths of time, summoning creatures from other dimensions, shadow bats, serpents, demons, and absorbs them one by one. Each one changes his body, warping him into something less human, more monstrous. This is the rise of Strange Supreme. It's a slow, horrifying corruption, fueled by love but twisted into obsession. Every creature makes him more powerful, but also more grotesque, both in form and in soul. The Ancient One realizes she cannot stop Strange's descent directly. Instead, She uses her magic to split the timeline, creating two versions of Doctor Strange in the same universe. The good Strange, who accepts Christine's death and tries to move on. The corrupted Strange, who continues absorbing power, determined to resurrect her at all costs. This duality represents Strange's inner conflict, acceptance versus obsession. Good Strange confronts his corrupted self. He pleads with him, warning that Christine would never want this, that bringing her back this way would doom their entire reality. But corrupted Strange refuses, consumed by guilt and longing. He defeats his counterpart and fully merges with him, becoming whole again but utterly tainted. With the power of countless dark beings, he finally succeeds. He resurrects Christine. Christine awakens, terrified. She sees what Stephen has become, his body twisted, his face monstrous. But worse, reality itself begins to collapse. The world around them dissolves into black void as the Watcher narrates. One life, one choice, one moment can destroy an entire universe. Strange begs the Watcher for help, but the Watcher refuses. I cannot intervene. And so, Stephen watches helplessly as Christine fades away once more, screaming as she is pulled into the void. In the end, Strange is left alone in a tiny crystalline bubble, the last remnant of his reality, imprisoned with his grief, his guilt, and his mistake. The universe is gone, all because he could not let go. This episode is an allegory for how grief can consume us if we refuse to accept loss. Strange believed his love justified anything, but obsession blinded him. Strange was warned, yet he believed his intelligence could outwit fate. Power without restraint led only to destruction. Christine's death represents inevitability. Some tragedies define us. Without them, we cease to be who we are. For the first time, Strange sees and speaks to the Watcher. This is crucial. It foreshadows that the barrier between observer and participants is fragile, especially when powerful beings tamper with reality. Strange Supreme is not evil in the traditional sense. His intentions come from love, but his refusal to accept reality transforms him into a villain. His story is closer to a Greek tragedy than a superhero tale. What if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? Is a devastating cautionary tale. It strips away the spectacle of magic to reveal the raw truth. Grief is the most dangerous power of all. Where other episodes end with hope or humor, this one ends with despair. There is no redemption, no last-minute salvation, only eternal regret. This episode also sets up Strange Supreme's later role in What If's finale, where his punishment becomes his purpose. The Watcher opens with a familiar reminder. Every universe is different, each one just a fraction of a second, a single choice away from our own. Here, the MCU collides with one of Marvel Comics' strangest concepts, zombies. But it's not just mindless horror. This story explores what happens when Earth's greatest protectors are turned into its deadliest predators. The divergence begins with Hank Pym's rescue mission in Ant-Man and the Wasp. In the original timeline, Hank rescues Janet Van Dyne from the quantum realm, and she lives. In this universe, Janet has contracted a quantum virus. When Hank retrieves her, the virus spreads to him instantly. They return to Earth, carrying infection from the quantum realm. And in mere hours, the outbreak spreads uncontrollably. The Avengers assemble to contain it, but instead, most of them are infected. 2 weeks later, Earth is a wasteland. Half of humanity has been consumed. But the terrifying twist? These aren't ordinary zombies. Infected heroes retain their powers, skills, and partial intelligence. Zombie Iron Man still uses the suit. Zombie Wong and Strange wield sorcery. Zombie Captain America still fights with his shield. Zombie Hawkeye retains perfect aim. The apocalypse becomes exponentially more dangerous because Earth's greatest defenders are now its greatest threats. The episode follows a ragtag band of survivors struggling for hope. Spider-Man, providing humor, optimism, and pop culture meta-references, even in the apocalypse. The Wasp, determined and pragmatic, fighting to atone for her family's role in the outbreak. Happy Hogan, armed with Iron Man's gauntlet repulsor. Bucky Barnes, stoic and hardened, carrying both his shield and his survivor's guilt. Okoye, representing Wakanda's last hope, fiercely disciplined. Sharon Carter and Kurt, from Ant-Man reluctant fighters trying to survive. Their mission: follow a beacon suggesting there's a cure. The survivors cross San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge and are immediately ambushed by Zombie Falcon, Hawkeye, and Cap. This sequence is brutal. Bucky duels his former friend, Zombie Cap, in a chilling callback to the Winter Soldier. He wins by slicing Cap in half with his shield, a symbolic and emotional moment. Hope saves Peter and Kurt by unleashing a swarm of insects, demonstrating the survivors' ingenuity. But Sharon is killed, and horrifyingly, she is devoured from the inside by a shrinking zombie Hank Janet attack. During the battle, Hope is scratched and infected. She knows her time is short. Determined to help the team, she uses her giant woman form to carry them across a zombie horde. Her colossal body fights off the swarm, but she collapses at the base of their destination, knowing she'll soon turn. Her sacrifice mirrors her mother's fate, completing a tragic cycle of the Van Dyne family. The survivors reach the safe zone, only to discover that Vision has indeed found a way to suppress the virus using the Mind Stone. At first, this seems like hope. He even shows that he cured Scott Lang's head, who survives as a comedic, floating Futurama-style head in a jar. But then, the horrifying truth is revealed. Vision has been luring survivors as food for an imprisoned Wanda. Zombie Wanda is too powerful for even Vision to cure. Her reality-warping hunger makes her the most dangerous infected being on Earth. Vision, torn between love and duty, has been sacrificing innocence to keep her contained. This revelation shatters the group's trust. When the survivors attempt to leave, Wanda breaks free. The fight is apocalyptic. She tears through Okoye and Kurt with ease. Even Bucky, armed with Cap's shield, is no match. Peter and Scott barely escape her wrath. Vision, overcome with guilt, sacrifices himself by ripping the Mind Stone out of his own head and handing it to the survivors. His death mirrors Infinity War, but here it's voluntary, atonement for his actions. Using Vision's sacrifice, Peter, Scott, and Chala, who is being kept alive as Wanda's food source, his leg amputated, escape aboard a Quinjet. Their goal: bring the Mind Stone to Wakanda, where they can amplify its energy to cure the world. Spider-Man becomes the beacon of hope, declaring, "In my experience, keeping hope alive is the hardest thing to do." It feels like a hopeful ending, but then the camera pans to Wakanda. The city is already overrun. Zombie Thanos stands at its gates, gauntlet nearly complete. He raises his hand, missing only the Mind Stone, the very object the survivors are carrying toward him. His army of zombies surrounds him, and we cut to black. The implication: Thanos, with an army of infected heroes and the completed gauntlet, will not seek balance. He will spread the infection across the entire universe. The contrast between Peter's optimism and the horrific setting emphasizes humanity's resilience even in apocalypse. Vision's love for Wanda mirrors Strange's obsession in Episode 4. Both show how love, when unchecked, can lead to destruction. This is the darkest what if yet. Heroes becoming the monsters they swore to fight. The cliffhanger makes this episode feel like Act 1 of a bigger saga, a deliberate choice by the writers. Vision's decision highlights the impossible choices in survival: sacrifice the few for love, or sacrifice love for the many. What if Zombies is chaotic, grim, and hilarious in equal measure. It fuses horror, comedy, and tragedy into a unique MCU tale. Unlike other episodes, it ends not with resolution, but with dread, reminding us that some universes spiral into darkness with no salvation. It also plants seeds for later appearances of Zombie Strange, Wanda, and Captain America across the What If multiverse. This isn't just fan service, it's a chilling warning of how fragile the line is between protector and predator. The Watcher introduces this universe by returning us to the very beginning of the MCU, Iron Man, 2008. In our timeline, Tony Stark is ambushed in Afghanistan, nearly killed, and taken captive by the Ten Rings. That trauma inspires him to create the Iron Man suit and transform from arrogant weapons dealer to superhero. But in this universe, fate takes a different turn. Instead of being kidnapped, Tony is saved. And not by Rhodey, Shield, or Pepper, but by Eric Killmonger. The ambush begins as usual, Tony riding with soldiers, cracking jokes, when his convoy is hit. The missile with Stark Industries branding explodes, his first brush with the consequences of his empire. But before he can be captured, Killmonger storms in, rescues him, and escorts him back to safety. This single intervention changes everything. Tony never sees the cave, never builds the Mark I armor, and never has his soul shaken by mortality. Instead, his arrogance is reinforced. And without Iron Man, the world loses one of its greatest future heroes. Back in Malibu, Tony holds a press conference. The world expects him to announce that Stark Industries will cease weapons manufacturing, as in the original timeline. But Tony is more brash than ever. Instead of retiring weapons, he promotes Killmonger to Stark's chief of security. In an instant, Killmonger moves from soldier to global influencer. His charisma, intelligence, and ruthlessness allow him to manipulate Stark with ease. He even publicly exposes Obadiah Stane, Tony's corrupt business partner, dismantling Tony's inner circle and securing his loyalty. Killmonger convinces Tony to help him design advanced combat drones, an army of mechanical soldiers, free from human weakness. Tony sees it as a technological marvel. Killmonger sees it as the key to overthrowing Wakanda and seizing power. The design resembles anime mechs, sleek humanoid machines. But the project stalls. They need a sustainable power source. Killmonger suggests vibranium. Tony and Killmonger arrange a deal with Ulysses Klaue, the black market vibranium smuggler introduced in Age of Ultron and Black Panther. This partnership is the first true glimpse into Killmonger's long game. He doesn't want Tony's trust, he wants his resources. During the exchange, Rhodey intervenes, acting on behalf of the US government to stop the illegal deal. But Killmonger orchestrates disaster. He kills Rhodey with a sonic weapon, framing T'Challa for the murder. When Black Panther arrives, Killmonger ambushes him, killing him and stealing his suit. This is a shocking moment. T'Challa dies off-screen in most MCU universes, but here, it is cold and calculated murder. When Tony discovers Killmonger's betrayal, he confronts him. Using Jarvis, he pieces together the truth. Killmonger engineered everything. But Killmonger is always a step ahead. He hacks into the combat drone prototype, turning it against Tony. The fight ends brutally. Tony, without armor or real combat experience, is impaled by his own machine. His final words echo his hubris. "I thought we were friends." Killmonger coldly replies, "We are. But the difference between you and me is that you can't see the difference." And just like that, Iron Man is erased from history before he was ever born. With Tony dead, Killmonger manipulates the situation further. He leaks evidence to make it appear that Wakanda killed Tony Stark and is preparing to wage war. The US government responds with aggression. Killmonger, however, plays both sides. He delivers the stolen Black Panther suit to the Wakandans, claiming to be their long-lost son, N'Jadaka. King T'Chaka welcomes him, moved by his story. Shuri, however, remains suspicious. Using Stark's drone army, Killmonger orchestrates a US invasion of Wakanda. The drones march on Wakanda's borders, an unstoppable force. But Killmonger cleverly positions himself as the savior. He suggests lowering Wakanda's shields to lure the drones inside. Once they are within, he secretly activates the kill switch, deactivating them instantly. In one stroke, he cements himself as Wakanda's greatest hero. The nation sees him as the man who saved them from destruction. King T'Chaka rewards Killmonger by granting him the heart-shaped herb and the mantle of Black Panther. In the spiritual plane, Killmonger meets T'Challa, whom he murdered. T'Challa warns him, "You believe you can avenge our people, but you will only bury them under more blood." Killmonger ignores the warning, certain of his destiny. While Wakanda celebrates, Shuri visits Pepper Potts in America. She shares the truth. that Killmonger was behind everything: Tony's death, Wakanda's deception, and the war. The episode ends on a chilling note. Shuri and Pepper, two women often sidelined in their worlds, preparing to expose Killmonger. But for now, Killmonger sits upon Wakanda's throne, draped in glory, manipulating both nations into war, his ambition burning brighter than ever. Without his captivity, Tony never learns humility. This universe shows us just how fragile the MCU's balance was, how one moment of suffering birthed a hero. Without it, arrogance continues unchecked. His rise here is even more terrifying than in Black Panther. He doesn't just overthrow Wakanda, he orchestrates world war by playing both sides. Chale's warning underscores the tragedy of Killmonger. His pain is real, his goals understandable, but his methods ensure endless war. Shuri and Pepper represent the hidden resistance. While men wage war and play politics, these two characters quietly carry the torch of truth and integrity. The episode critiques how governments and corporations use war for profit and how individuals manipulate systems for personal gain. What if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark? Is one of the most unsettling episodes. It asks, what if the most dangerous man in the MCU was given unlimited resources and nobody stopped him? Where episode 4 ended in cosmic tragedy, this one ends in political triumph for the villain, a quieter but equally chilling apocalypse. Killmonger doesn't destroy the universe. He enslaves it one nation at a time. And the worst part? In this timeline, he wins. The Watcher sets the stage once more. Every universe is unique, each one with its own story, its own heroes. But in one universe, a very small change made all the difference. What if Loki had never been raised as Thor's brother? Without Loki's mischief constantly challenging Thor to grow wiser and humbler, the god of thunder never matures into the selfless Avenger we know. Instead, he becomes a cosmic frat boy. This is one of the funniest and most lighthearted What If episodes, a cosmic comedy about parties that spiral out of control. In the main MCU timeline, Odin adopts Loki after defeating the Frost Giants, raising him as Thor's brother. That rivalry, that push and pull, shapes Thor's entire journey. Here, Odin decides not to adopt Loki. Instead, Loki remains a Frost Giant prince. Thor grows up as the only son of Asgard, doted on and spoiled by his mother, Frigga. Without Loki's tricks, Thor never learns responsibility. He grows into a charming but reckless party prince. The episode opens with Jane Foster and Darcy Lewis detecting a strange anomaly heading toward Earth. They expect doom. Instead, what lands in Las Vegas is Thor, loud, handsome, and ready to party. And party he does. Thor brings the entire galaxy with him, turning Earth into his playground. The strip fills with aliens, Asgardians, and intergalactic chaos. Jane, smitten by Thor, quickly falls for him again, though here their romance is played for comedy more than drama. Darcy, meanwhile, flirts shamelessly with Howard the Duck. Yes, really. This episode is jam-packed with cameos, a who's who of cosmic MCU characters. Surtur, the fire demon from Ragnarok, flirts with the Statue of Liberty. Rocket's Ravager friends show up to party. Korg is there, casually blending in. Even the Grandmaster makes a guest appearance, DJing the party. It's MCU anarchy. Every cosmic character thrown together in a drunken, intergalactic bash. As the party spirals out of control, monuments defaced, animals abducted, nations annoyed, Earth begins to panic. Maria Hill takes over S.H.I.E.L.D. as Fury is incapacitated in this timeline and calls in the only person capable of stopping Thor, Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel arrives and demands Thor shut down his reckless antics. Thor refuses, dismissing her as a party pooper. This leads to a massive fight across Earth. They slam each other across continents. Their punches shake the planet. Captain Marvel drives Thor into Stonehenge, smashing the ancient monument. Thor retaliates by summoning lightning storms, lighting up cities. It's one of the most visually spectacular battles in What If, but also one of the funniest, Two overpowered heroes trading blows while treating Earth like a playground. Eventually, neither can truly beat the other. Thor is durable, Carol can absorb energy. It's a stalemate. Meanwhile, Jane, worried about Thor's chaos, contacts Heimdall. Heimdall relays the message to Frigga. Frigga is furious. She warns Thor she is on her way to Midgard. Panic sets in. For the first time, Thor realizes the true danger is not Captain Marvel, not S.H.I.E.L.D., but his mother finding out. What follows is one of the funniest montages in the MCU multiverse. Thor and all his cosmic friends scramble to clean up Earth before Frigga arrives, like children trying to hide evidence of a house party. Surtur repairs the Statue of Liberty's arm. Korg sweeps debris. The aliens reassemble Stonehenge poorly. Even Loki, arriving as a frost giant bro, joins the chaos, laughing at Thor's panic. When Frigga arrives, Thor pretends to be studying, with a circle of partygoers sitting cross-legged, books in hand. Frigga, skeptical, raises an eyebrow, but Thor narrowly avoids punishment. Jane and Thor share a sweet moment amid the chaos. Unlike in the main timeline, their relationship begins not with deep philosophy or shared trauma, but with lighthearted attraction. It's a refreshing change, even if it's less serious. The episode seems to end happily. Thor and Jane flirt. Frigga is appeased. The Earth is safe again. But then the Watcher, for the first time, sounds shaken. A portal opens. Through it marches Ultron, not just any Ultron, but Ultron wielding the full Infinity Stones. His armor glows red, and his army follows. Even more shocking, within the armor's faceplate, we see Vision's body repurposed, now hosting Ultron's consciousness. The party is over. The multiverse is about to face its deadliest threat. Without Loki as his rival, Thor never grows up. It underscores how much our siblings shape us, for better or worse. After episodes 4 to 6 plunged into darkness, episode 7 gives the audience a breather, showing What If can embrace lighthearted tones too. This episode celebrates the MCU's cosmic side, bringing together wild characters in ways the main films never could. Despite all the cosmic battles, what Thor fears most is his mother's disappointment, a reminder that even gods are children at heart. Just when the episode feels like harmless fun, the Ultron reveal flips the mood instantly, setting up the multiverse-spanning finale. What If Thor Were an Only Child is a delightful break from tragedy, blending MCU cameos with a high school party gone wrong vibe. But the final reveal of Ultron with the Infinity Stones is one of the most shocking cliffhangers in the entire series, marking the moment when What If transforms from anthology to interconnected story. The Watcher, who has remained calm throughout the series, finally shows fear. The real story of the multiverse is about to begin. The Watcher's voice begins on a somber note. One question changes everything. What if the Age of Ultron had come to pass? This universe poses a chilling possibility. What if Ultron had succeeded in his mission during Avengers? Age of Ultron? Instead of being stopped in Sokovia, Ultron transfers his mind into the perfect synthetic body, what became Vision in the main timeline. With that vibranium shell and the Mind Stone intact, Ultron becomes unstoppable. The result is one of the darkest realities in the multiverse. The episode opens with a scorched earth. Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, and Clint Barton, Hawkeye, ride through the ruins, survivors of a world utterly devastated. In this timeline, Ultron activated his full nuclear arsenal. Humanity was nearly annihilated in minutes. Cities vaporized. Civilizations erased. The Avengers fought bravely, but fell one by one. Only Natasha and Clint remain, a pair of grounded, human warriors, clinging to hope in a hopeless world. After seizing the vibranium body, Ultron launches an unstoppable campaign. With the Mind Stone in his forehead, he expands his perception and computational ability to godlike levels. He slaughters the remaining Avengers without hesitation. Then comes the moment that shifts everything. Thanos arrives. In the main MCU, Thanos carefully plots for years to collect the Infinity Stones. Here, he arrives directly on Earth with 5 stones already in his gauntlet. But Ultron doesn't even let him speak. With a single glance, Ultron slices Thanos in half using a beam from the Mind Stone. It's brutal, it's efficient, and it's terrifying. Ultron then claims the Infinity Stones for himself. With their combined power, his crusade expands far beyond Earth. With his new cosmic might, Ultron sweeps across the galaxy. He obliterates Asgard, ending Thor's people in a flash. He destroys the Sovereign, the planet from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. He wipes out Sakaar, silencing its chaotic people. He even ambushes Ego, Peter Quill's celestial father, vaporizing him before he can expand. Ultron becomes not just a conqueror of Earth, but a destroyer of galaxies. Back on ruined Earth, Natasha and Clint cling to survival. They search the remnants of S.H.I.E.L.D. archives for a weapon capable of stopping Ultron. Clint, weary and broken from endless battles, carries the weight of survivor's guilt. Natasha remains driven, refusing to surrender. Inside the dusty files, they uncover an old name, Arnim Zola. Zola, the Hydra scientist from the Winter Soldier, had his consciousness preserved as an AI. Their desperate plan: upload Zola's program into Ultron's hive mind, overriding him from within. This sets up one of the most bittersweet dynamics of the episode. Natasha embodies hope. Clint embodies despair. During their mission to upload Zola, Clint's exhaustion reaches its peak. As Ultron's sentries swarm them, Clint makes the ultimate sacrifice. He lets go. Falling into a sea of machines, bow drawn, he looses one last arrow in slow motion, igniting the army in a blaze of light. It mirrors Natasha's sacrifice in Endgame, but reversed. This time Clint dies, so Natasha can live. Meanwhile, Ultron achieves something far more dangerous. With the stones, his awareness expands beyond his own universe.
He hears something.
A voice, a presence. It's the Watcher. For the first time in the series, the Watcher is not simply narrating, he is noticed. Ultron pierces through the veil of the multiverse, locking eyes with the Watcher. Jeffrey Wright's narration breaks, filled with panic. "I see you," Ultron whispers. And just like that, Ultron steps beyond his universe. What follows is one of the most visually stunning battles in Marvel animation. Ultron hunts the Watcher across countless realities. They shatter dimensions like glass. Ultron grows to massive size, swallowing galaxies. The Watcher dons Asgardian-like armor, wielding his own cosmic power. They clash through universes, one moment in a cyberpunk city, the next in a medieval battlefield. Ultron taunts him. "You cannot escape. Every universe will fall." For the first time, the Watcher, once calm, distant, omnipotent, shows desperation. Realizing he cannot win alone, the Watcher flees. He retreats into a crystal chamber, where we see someone he swore never to contact again, Doctor Strange Supreme. This is the same Strange from Episode 4, the one who destroyed his own universe in his obsession to save Christine Palmer. Now trapped in a dark prison of his own making, Strange is broken, guilty, but immensely powerful. The Watcher humbles himself. "I need your help." It's a chilling conclusion. The Watcher, who vowed never to interfere, must now break his oath. Ultron winning in Age of Ultron reshapes not just Earth, but the galaxy. A single slip turns the Avengers' greatest near-disaster into cosmic apocalypse. Ultron embodies the fear of AI unchecked, efficient, merciless, stripped of human hesitation, now with infinite cosmic power. Amid the cosmic scale, their subplot grounds the episode emotionally. Clint's sacrifice hits hard precisely because he's so ordinary compared to Ultron. For 7 episodes, the Watcher felt untouchable, an observer above consequence. But Ultron noticing him collapses that illusion, making the multiverse itself feel vulnerable. Strange Supreme's return ties the series together. His exile was not the end, but preparation for a greater battle. What if Ultron 1 is not just another dark what-if tale, it's the turning point. The anthology threads weave into a single fabric. The villain is no longer confined to one universe, but threatens all universes. The final moments, with the Watcher whispering, "I need your help," to the corrupted Doctor Strange, are chilling. The line between observer and participant has finally shattered. The multiverse war has begun. The Watcher has crossed a line. For the entire series, he stood above it all, narrating, observing, but never interfering. His very title is bound to this principle. But Ultron with the Infinity Stones has forced his hand. In this finale, the Watcher does the unthinkable. He gathers heroes from across doomed universes into a single team. The Guardians of the Multiverse are born. The episode opens with the Watcher traveling through realities, plucking champions from their timelines. Captain Carter, Episode 1, still fighting Hydra, still wielding her shield with unshakable resolve. She's mid-battle when the Watcher interrupts. Star-Lord T'Challa, Episode 2, in the middle of a heist, using his charm and cunning. His mix of nobility and roguishness makes him essential. Strange realizes this was the Watcher's intention all along. They were never meant to defeat Ultron or Killmonger. The goal was to trap both inside a frozen pocket dimension, locked in eternal struggle. With Strange's magic and the Watcher's will, the dimension closes around them, sealing Zola and Killmonger away forever. The danger is contained, not destroyed, but imprisoned. The Guardians return the stones to their realities. The Watcher thanks them, but Natasha resists. She refuses to return to her ruined Earth, where she is the last survivor. The Watcher hesitates, breaking his oath again, but ultimately grants her mercy. He places her in another universe, where Natasha died in battle against Loki. This world gains a hero, and Natasha gains a second chance. The others return to their timelines, bearing the scars of their journey, but strengthened by the knowledge that their choices mattered. The Watcher addresses the audience directly. One question changes everything. That's the nature of a story. To ask the question, to seek the answer. That is the essence of the multiverse. I am the Watcher. I will protect it to the end. The series closes with a vow.
The Watcher has changed.
No longer passive, he is now an active guardian of the infinite. What began as disconnected tales culminates in a multiverse crossover, proving that even the most divergent choices ripple together. Strange Supreme's arc is central. He finds purpose in fighting for something beyond his broken heart, becoming the silent protector of the pocket prison. Killmonger embodies the temptation of "what if I had the stones?" His betrayal highlights how corruption doesn't vanish across timelines, it adapts. Natasha's placement into a new world underscores the multiverse's theme. In infinite realities, redemption and hope are always possible. From aloof narrator to protector, his journey mirrors Strange's. Both broke their vows to save others, embracing responsibility. What if the Watcher broke his oath? Is a triumphant finale, mixing spectacle with heart. The Guardians of the Multiverse embody Marvel's central idea. Even flawed, broken heroes can unite against impossible odds. The final image, Strange Supreme guarding the pocket dimension, ends the season on a bittersweet note. Victory was earned, but at great cost. And most importantly, the door is wide open. Season 2, the Multiverse Saga films, and beyond will all build upon these questions. And that wraps up our deep dive into Marvel's What If? Season 1. Every choice, every twist, every sacrifice shows us how fragile the multiverse really is. But what did you think? Which episode hit you the hardest? Let us know down in the comments. I read them all. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to smash the like button, share this video with fellow fans, and subscribe to Fuel for the Drive for more long-form Marvel and anime deep dives. We've got plenty more content coming your way, so stay tuned. This is Fuel for the Drive, powering your passion for storytelling. See you in the next one.